Hello and welcome to the After Action Report, a podcast from the Eden Project. I'm one of your hosts today. My name is Michael Stewart. This is my friend, my co-host, and executive director of the Eden Project, Bryn Briggs.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, Bryn. And this episode, by the way, as we get started, we want to remind you we're recording at Rome in Trilith. Designed to re-inspire work and meetings, Rome partners with you to create a better workday for you and your team with elevated office environments, productive workspaces, and all-inclusive meeting rooms. That's Rome at Trilith, right next to Fayetteville, Georgia.
Yeah. Hey, they start filming again.
I'm so excited. After all the strikes are finally ended and everybody's kind of back to work.
I swear I saw an actor yesterday. I was going into a bank. I was sure it was like somebody who was somebody.
Right.
But I got in there and I thought, nah, certainly it definitely wasn't, a real, like an actor. But talking with someone at dinner last night, I really think it was, there's a new movie being filmed here. And it very well could have been.
Well, there's a lot of people here. I want to share my story real quick on this. So I was at a golf course and I was coming off with a friend. We were walking up through the parking lot and I look over and at the back of a car with the trunk open, it's three guys. And one guy is kind of leaning on the car and he's looking over at me and I look at him. And in my mind, I'm like, looks like Bruce Willis. And so I just kind of do this little, the little head nod,
Yeah.
And he looks at me and he kind of gets a little smile and he does a head nod back. And I walk by and I tell my buddy, I said, man, that looks just like Bruce Willis. I think that's him. He goes, nah, that's not Bruce Willis. And I think, I don't know, man. I got to the car and I stood there and I fought with myself to go back over and speak to him. I thought, nah, I better not.
Right.
Drove away and I'm out and about the next day and someone said, hey, did you see Bruce Willis was in town? I think he was golfing over at such and such. It was him.
It was him.
I missed my opportunity.
I thought you were going to say he asked for your autograph.
No, well, that would have been a great thing to be in a movie with him, but as an actor and all of that. So, the Eden Project is a veterans and active military's resource for mental health. If this is your first time tuning into one of our podcasts, helping those who need healthy mental health tools and resources to deal with day-to-day life. That's what Eden Project does. And by us expanding into a podcast, that's what we hope to do for even more and more people, right?
That's right. So obviously we can reach people face to face in our peer groups that we do here in Fayetteville. But this podcast helps us to reach people all across the country. So I'm excited that we can use this platform and do what we do personally, in a bigger way.
Yeah, exactly. So what we like to start off the show with each time we do a podcast is things that we're grateful for. Is that correct? Can I start?
I was hoping you would.
Yeah. Okay. So I was thinking about that on the way over here. I'm obviously grateful for my prayer life, but I'm also grateful for my health. And as I know a lot of people, and you don't have to be a veteran for this, as you get older, things start to maybe not work so well anymore, if you know what I mean. And even though I've been dealing with this bulging L5 disc, and it's quite painful 20 hours out of a 24-hour day, I'm still grateful for the other parts that work.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Try to find that positive in it, maybe a negative situation.
Right.
But what about you?
It's funny you bring up the whole pain thing, because this last couple of weeks, pain has been so I'm in pain constantly. Mm-hmm. It's not a new thing for me. It's not a matter of am I in pain? It's how much pain am I in?
Right.
And this past week has been one of those super, super high pain kind of days. When it gets really bad, like last week, for example, I lost use of my right arm. My right eye just completely goes black. I can't see out of it. So when I say it's bad, it's like really bad kind of stuff.
That's horrible.
Yeah. So, driving, I used to joke the fact that, God gave me two eyes, so at least I have the other one.
Positive thinking from Bryn Briggs.
But so last week, high pain, everything. My lovely wife, who I'm super grateful for, Nikki, came up with this essential oil concoction. We call it the trifecta because, initially it started out with 3 different ingredients, but there's actually 5 now. I don't know what to call it with 5 ingredients. So we still call it the trifecta.
I don't know, some kind of potion or something. Hey, your wife is a redhead, so back in the day they would burn her at the stake for making something like
this.
It's
funny. I joke with her about that all the time. So there's no eye of newt. There's no
wing of bat.
Yeah, the big kettle is doesn't exist at our house, but she's got these really cool essential oils. if I can remember what they are. I think frankincense is one of them. Copaiba, if you've ever heard of Copaiba.
I've heard of the Copacabana, but not that. So.
That's not one of them. So Copaiba, frankincense, turmeric, and I think she throws in some black pepper and maybe yarrow palm for color or something.
I don't even know what language you're speaking right now.
But the crazy thing, so she puts them in a little capsule. The crazy thing, within 5 minutes, and I kid you not, almost every single time she gives this to me, within 5 minutes, the pain's gone. I've taken some high dose of other pain medicine that they like to prescribe. Makes me feel dopey and whatever else.
Right.
This stuff, the pain's gone, and I'm as clear as... I'd say as clear as I am now, but you know what I mean. Right?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. And let me also say, for those who are listening, joking aside, we are not medical doctors, and we are not endorsing this as a replacement for someone's pain medicine. You do what is right for you. We're just kind of sharing things in our lives, as we say.
Thanks for throwing it in there. So to get back to the gratitude part,
right.
I'm super grateful for my lovely wife. I'm super grateful for the fact that these oils are out there specifically, to help in my condition. So,
and we're grateful that on this particular podcast, we welcome our very first guest.
That's right. So it's, if people are listening and they hear this other voice in the background, it's not something wrong with your radio. We've got a special guest, a good friend of mine. I met him maybe 6-8 months ago.
Yeah.
Not quite a year.
Yeah. About 6-8 months ago. Yeah.
So I call him
through a mutual friend.
Yes. Through a mutual friend. Jack is a great friend of mine now. And we're getting closer and closer. It's really weird. The fact that, I've got a kind of a weird military history, going from the Marine Corps to the Army, and have never talked to anybody that had a similar weird situation until I met Jack. Mm-hmm. I'll let him go through the details, but Jack was enlisted in the Marine Corps also, got out of the Marine Corps, and at some point joined the Army and was a commissioned officer, a medical officer like I was. We were both in Hawaii.
By name only.
That's right.
Yeah,
right.
Because I did other things than just being a MSC officer. Yeah.
So without further ado, I think I'm going to turn it over to Jack. I'll let him talk about his military. One of the things I'll let other people know, and I'll tell Jack too, we only have like half an hour.
Yeah. See, hold on. Let me make this official first of all, since we have not said his last name yet. Oh, gotcha. We need to officially welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Jack Perry.
Thank you.
Thanks. You see, and the funny thing is, he's telling me that because I have a tendency to, people would say have oral diarrhea. I have a tendency to keep on talking. But thank you. It's an honor to be here with you both and to be part of the show, and especially the Eden Project. And so where do you want to go? Did you want to my history and background or how I got here?
So what I thought was, maybe a little bit of a high level view of your military history, maybe how we met, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, gotcha. Well, first of all, I want to start off by saying it's an honor to be here and to be able to speak with you both and be part of such a great podcast for our audience. So my background started off actually, I was in the Marine Corps Reserve. I was in Tucson, Arizona, and was going back to college after Marine Corps boot camp. Money ran out, and I became a police officer in Tucson, Arizona. And I was a cop there for 7 years, and I was in the Marine Corps Reserve for 9. I lost a good friend of mine in a gunfight. And I decided that maybe there's something else I want to do, something safer. So I left law enforcement, went active duty left my time in the Marine Corps Reserves was up, and I went active duty in the Army, went to one officer flight school and became an attack pilot for 4.5 years. In that time, I was working on my degree, got commissioned as a second lieutenant. Most fun rank, an interesting rank in the United States Army.
Just don't give you a compass.
Yeah. Don't give orders. Don't act like you know what's in charge. You're in charge of anything. And then as I gained more time, I decided I want to do something a little bit different. I want to be more challenging. So I got commissioned as a lieutenant and got a Black Hawk transition, and then went down and worked in Central America as a combat search and rescue pilot. And the rest is history after that. And then did 30 years total time in the military, 30 years.
So I didn't say it earlier. Michael kind of touched on it, but definitely thank for your service.
Thank you.
I appreciate
that.
I like to tell all the vets who, whether it's a year or 30 years, I hope I can speak for the country. Mm-hmm. I really appreciate your time and dedication to what you did. Okay, so in our peer groups, you've been through a peer group.
Yeah.
We're really picky about not telling war stories, and there's a reason for that in our peer groups. Mm-hmm. However, and I know I probably should have forewarned you or given you some heads up on this. I'm going to let you kind of tell a story now. If there's something you can share or want to share, or you think would be appropriate to fit in, I'd love to hear something that you just can't share in a group.
Gosh, there's several stories. One, first of all, I'd like to say that it was an absolute honor when I had the opportunity to command and be selected to be a commander. That was an absolute honor. And when you wake up every single morning and you walk out and realize that you've got the lives of other men and women in your hands, especially being a Black Hawk. I was a Black Hawk commander stationed just south of the DMZ between North and South Korea. I had 15 Black Hawk helicopters, had about 200 soldiers and pilots and crew members that I miss to this very day, that were some of the coolest damn people you could ever have the honor and the pleasure of working with. I miss them, and that was one of the highlights of my career, and seeing them grow. That's one of the good things, and some of the bad things you see is the death and destruction in that job, and the people you pick up, and what things you unfortunately that you see in that job and in that type of MOS, as we call it, that is being a search and rescue pilot, medevac pilot. And sometimes you don't have a choice. You got to go in and go wherever they send you, and whatever the commander sends you, and whatever the mission dictates.
Yeah.
And staying away from war, and a war story, and I won't get into too graphic detail. The big turning point for me was when I was sent to Bosnia during the war, and I kept seeing these maps of the mass graves that were all around in the perimeter area that we were in. And so I saw them on the maps, and we kept plotting them and this and the other until one day it was my turn to go fly and do a in-house or in-country orientation. And then we kept going down through this place called the Valley of Death in Bosnia. And then, you're all pumped up and psyched up and everything until you actually see it.
Wow.
And then that was a changing point for me in my life, and the way I viewed myself, my job, the military, the way I looked at what was important to me in my life and what was not important to me. When you start seeing these innocent people that were mass murdered, and that had a change on me mentally, that I had to go back and rethink my own life, my own purpose, my own direction. Why am I here? And what would happen if I wasn't here? Yeah. Who else would be able to step in and do this job? And it takes somebody different to be able to do that. Mm-hmm. And I kept my visor down after I saw the first set of mass graves, because I had tears in my eyes and I was actually crying. And it wasn't because I was crying out of sorrow, which was partly there. I was crying because I was just ticked off and I was mad at the inhumanity.
Yeah. So it's one thing to, like you said, see the map and to maybe see it on TV or whatever, but to actually see it in person, it's life-changing, isn't it?
It very much, it is. You can read about all kinds of cool stuff in a book. You can go watch all kinds of action movies and watch all kinds of stuff. But when you actually turn a corner and you look and you see it and it's face-to-face with you,
you can't unsee it.
You can't unsee it. And that's also, Brandon, when you need to rely on your faith and need to rely on your friends and your peers to support you as you go through that and be able to talk through it.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you brought that up, because one thing, as a non-military person, one thing I have seen with veterans and active military is that there's a lot of times you go through isolation, you do things on your own, and you experience this on your own, but you're so much better as a group. together with other people, just like in armies, even in the Bible, it tells us, man, God did not create us to be alone.
That's right.
No.
So it's better to be in groups, and you talk about your peer groups.
That's
and,
right.
and such. And I even jotted down this little proverb. I believe it's an African proverb. If you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
That's a perfect segue, because that kind of helps us tie into what what I think is going to fit and talk about today. When you had your visor down, I'm going to make some assumptions here.
Yeah,
Tell me
sure,
yes,
please.
right, or change it. You put it down to kind of create that isolation, to create that distance, because you probably at that time didn't want to be judged. You were isolating yourself.
I didn't want to show weakness. I didn't want them to see my weakness or show or demonstrate that weakness, or see a part of me that we have a tendency to hide, and because of the machoism or that kick-ass, take names type of mentality that we had during that mission. But it was the inhumanity that bothered me the most, and that bothered me, that how another human being could cause so much destruction and death, and what we need to do about it. And it changed my whole outlook and my view and performance in life. Yes.
I wonder what things would have been like for you or the team if maybe your visor had been up and they saw your humanity. They saw how it affected you. If that would have maybe brought people together, because if you were feeling it, they were feeling it too.
Right. But there's one thing you got to remember, and I appreciate that. And that's a great way to look at it. But you've also got to let your crew members know you're still in charge of your own faculties, because you're flying a multi-million-dollar aircraft for the people's lives. And so I don't want them to see my weakness. I will, and this leads into something else too, but my weakness I will show in private, and maybe with somebody else who I would talk to in confidence, but you don't want to show in the cockpit while you're flying at 170 knots, low level through the trees, and somebody says, "Oh my God, the co-pilot or the pilot in command's crying." So that's you got to keep that hidden. That's one of the things that destroys a lot of us as either law enforcement or military, is that we hide those things. So I would only show my vulnerability when I thought it was appropriate or wouldn't be used against me.
Yep. So that's kind of the dichotomy that we lived while we were in uniform, that we would hide our feelings because we didn't want to look a certain way, or we had a position or a thing, a status that we were supposed to maintain.
A facade.
That's right. But we also, we have that teamwork, we have that camaraderie, the people that we're around that are similar, that are all like us, probably going through the same thing. But it's that esprit de corps, that teamwork that we developed, that we built, that we really lived in uniform.
Yeah.
And when we leave the military, that's kind of gone.
Yeah. When you leave the military, it's kind of like, I equate it to like, jumping off the diving board in the deep end, and you can't quite get to the side to get help, until somebody throws something out there for you or a lifeline or to help you get back to shore again. That's what it was like for me. And I was in isolation for many, many years because of things like that, because I didn't want to show a weakness, and it builds up. And then it wasn't until I was having my wife and I, who I love very dearly, were having some issues and stuff. And then I realized it wasn't all her. It was, because doggone it, it's your fault, not mine. I'm perfect, and then until you look in the mirror one day and you go, yeah, it ain't her, it's me.
Right.
And then so I sought help. And the Eden Project was one of those places where I went.
Thank you. We're glad to be there for you and people like you, because one of the things that we hear more than anything else is that isolation, is that loneliness, is the fact that they missed a camaraderie and this esprit de corps and the teamwork and all that stuff that we knew while in uniform. But we get away from that, and now that we're out, just growing our hair and our beard and being a civilian, and it's one of those things, you don't know what you don't know. Well, you don't know how much you really needed and depended and thrived on that teamwork until it's gone.
Yeah. There's invisible wounds there.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And they just get worse and worse and deeper. And it's like a scar tissue until you seek help, or you isolate yourself. You ruin a marriage, you ruin relationships, ruin friendships and families. To isolate yourself from your families until one day. And what happened to me is I got sick and tired of being freaking sick and tired. I got tired of I could sit there and man up and say, yeah, I will go through life as very stoic and strong and manly and I can live this life the way I want to, blah, blah, blah. That's a bunch of crap. Yeah. Whoever's listening now, I'll tell you guys, that's a bunch of crap. I've been a police officer. I've been an attack pilot. I've been a combat search and rescue pilot. I have been in some of the most horrific places in the world. I've been down in Central America. I've been in Bosnia. I've been most all over the world. Let me tell you something. If you don't ask for help and you do it in isolation, you're slowly killing yourself until you reach out to somebody.
Michael started out, and we had an African proverb, I think. He started out with a proverb, and he said something earlier that we're not meant to be alone.
Yeah. Right.
The isolation causes those problems, and the things that you said, and I'm going to add a couple more things in there.
Sure.
When you don't have the teamwork and the esprit de corps and the camaraderie and all that stuff that we got used to, and it's gone, unknowingly or subconsciously, we start to fill those with things that we start to fill that void.
Oh yeah,
with things that aren't healthy. Mm-hmm. People will turn to substance or chemicals, or they'll drive faster than they're supposed to. That adrenaline rush. They'll engage in behavior that's risky or not healthy, not because they're looking to hurt themselves, but they're looking to fill that void of the missing the camaraderie in the esprit de corps.
They want the dopamine fix.
Right.
Yeah.
And often you'll find that, they try this and they got a little bit out of that. And then all of a sudden it's not filling what they wanted it to fill. And so they move on to the next thing, whether
Absolutely.
it's alcohol, into drugs, to pornography, or, or whatever the case may be. And so it's a continual search.
Right.
Until they get to the right thing.
And if they only knew what the right thing was earlier.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what I'm really hoping that we can reach somebody, that community of folks right now, to help them understand it's not the alcohol, it's not the drugs, it's not the dangerous behavior, it's community. It's finding your tribe. It's finding, even if that tribe is one or two other people, it's finding that group of people and start refilling your void with other people.
Yeah, and I'll add one more thing to that is that the toughest thing for me to ever do in my life, being a cop and then going in the Marines and pilot and all that other neat, cool stuff. The hardest thing for me to do was go look in the mirror and go, I got a problem.
Yeah.
That was one of the toughest things for me to do, and then go, okay, I need help. And then I had a phone number to call somebody, and that number sat next to my bed for about a year. And finally I picked up the phone out of desperation and I called this number, and I don't know if we're allowed to swear on the radio here, but I'm not going to. And I said, hey, this is Jack Perry. Your name was given to me by so-and-so. I want to let you know I'm kind of effed up. I need help. And they said, okay, let's un-F you. And then that person's been in my life ever since.
Nice. And
got me to look in the mirror and then know that it wasn't such a bad thing to go look in the mirror, because that's where you start your journey.
Amen.
Yeah. Humbling yourself is, I will speak, again, I speak from a different walk of life, but humbling yourself is the very first thing. And it's so hard for anybody to do, to admit, I've got issues, I got problems. I mean, we may know it inside, but to actually come out and tell somebody else, hey, I'm horrible at this, or I'm suffering from this addiction or whatever, it's a devastating thing for a lot of people.
Right.
Toughest. I mean, real quick, and that's a great comment. I appreciate that, and because toughest thing for me, one of the things that it was coming out to my wife and saying, and look at my beautiful wife, Kirsten. She will go, Jack, you shouldn't mention my name, but she is is looking at her and looking at her eyes and going, honey, I've got a problem. I need to go get help. Yeah. And then, when that happened, you weren't met with like, well, what's wrong with you? It was probably met with love and acceptance and let me help you any way I can, right? Absolutely. She's a wonderful, beautiful lady, and I love her to death. I really do.
And that's what part of a tribe will do is you get the right people around you. They're there to help you. They're not there to chastise you or go, well, what's wrong with you, dude? They're there for help.
if it's your real tribe. And that's exactly right. That's what most people are afraid of, though. They're afraid that they hold it inside and they say, well, there's something wrong with me, or I'm bad, I'm wrong, I'm this or whatever that. So the shame keeps them from speaking up, when if they do speak up, the same thing will probably happen like with you.
Yeah.
She'll be there. She accept you, love you, encourage and help. So
yeah. And I'll say this too, also while we're on this topic, is that I've had talks with veterans before and police officers that said that I don't want to show vulnerability and I don't want to show kind of weakness by telling people my issues and my problems. And I said, okay, let me ask you this. I said, what is courage? What does it mean to have guts and have courage? Would you go burn into that burning building to save somebody's life? Of course. What does that take? It takes courage. Would you stand in front of your family to protect them from bullets? Yes. Why do you do that? Because it takes courage. So how much courage does it take for you to be vulnerable and say, I got a problem?
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
That takes guts.
Yep.
Okay. Now you want to man up, then man up and say, I've got a problem. That takes guts. That takes courage. Get healthy and get on your way.
Whew. That's pretty powerful. And that's exactly why we do this, why I'm so excited that you're here with us as our first guest, because that's where
I'm honored,
where we want to go and take this and make this more of a commonplace conversation than that unique conversation happens every once or twice a year. Having the courage to say, I need help, or I need this, or I'm alone, just say it, because it just, the walls come down.
Can I add one more thing to this?
Absolutely.
And sorry, and I have a habit of monopolizing. So,
don't worry, I'm controlling the mic.
Yeah, so Brent will probably hit me and go, Jack, stop. But I was single for about 24 years, and I was a combat search and rescue pilot in the Army and stuff, and did all that crazy stuff. I didn't want to orphan anybody, and I didn't want to be a widow with anybody and stuff. And so I stayed single for many, many years until I met the love of my life, which is who I'm married to now, Kirsten. And I didn't really give a crap what anybody thought about me. I didn't give a crap what anybody said about me. I paid my dues. I paid my dues in my country until I met the right woman. And when I met Kirsten, then things changed, because I realized there was more to my life than what my agenda was. I had to look at her and go, if I'm going to stay attached and love such a wonderful lady, I had to go look in the mirror for myself really hard and make some serious changes. And I'll tell you right now, and I'm not being ingratiating, but that's one of the reasons that led me to the Eden Project here and met Bren.
Nice. So we talk about these kind of topics from a military perspective or standpoint, but this isolation, the teamwork, and all this other stuff, the drug abuse and everything we've mentioned so far, isn't unique to just the military community.
Right.
Matter of fact, it's us talking right here, but there have been studies done on non-military communities specific to this event. So have you heard of a town, and gosh, I hope I pronounced this right, Roseto?
I think it's Roseto.
Roseto, Pennsylvania. Have you heard of that town?
I have heard something about it.
Yeah. So we talk about this in our peer group. And I'll try and go through this story really quick, and you'll see the connection between the study that was done back in the 60s and a lot of what we're talking about now. So back in the 60s, there's this town. Say it again.
Roseto.
Thank you. Roseto, Pennsylvania. And I'm from Pennsylvania. You think I would know how to pronounce these towns. It's a small town with Italian immigrants. And if you were going to walk down this street any given night of the week, you'd see people getting off work at the end of the day, socializing, chatting it up, talking. You'd see at that time women in the kitchen cooking up their pasta and their sausage and whatever else, and maybe sitting on a front porch drinking wine. Your typical kind of Norman Rockwell version of what a small town, rural town kind of look like. You see the women, in the kitchens, preparing obviously the meals, the men pushing the tables together. We would do that on holidays, but these people did it all the time. It was a commonplace for them. And they stuck together as a community. They were all Italian immigrants and working together, similar to where they came from. So, and it wasn't, a vegetarian spread they were putting out there. This is Italian sausage, fried meatballs and lard, lots of wine, and all the making your mouth water, isn't it? But what they noticed, this community, there were no heart attacks. They were all healthy people. They had, which is why this community was being studied. The issues that were affecting the rest of the country didn't affect these people. Well, later on, as the kids grew up and things started to change and the kids would move away and come back, this community started to change. Mm-hmm. So prior to that, like in the 60s, it was a multi-generation household. So grandma lived with the families and the grandkids were there, and aunts and uncles were all, in the same mm-hmm. house sometimes, but definitely within the same neighborhood.
Right.
In the early 70s, things started to change. The kids moved away, and then they come back bringing different concepts and different thoughts. And the social time that they had didn't exist anymore. They didn't have the communal meals, and they weren't socializing the way they did just 10 years ago. So I think 1971 was the first heart attack of somebody under 45.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Long time, huh?
Researchers, came together. Of course, they've been studying this town for a while. And what they concluded was it wasn't the health, it wasn't the food, it wasn't, they weren't out running marathons. They weren't, like physically fit. It was the community. It was the multi-generational families. It was, what we've been calling it here. It was the tribe that kept these people healthy. So we talk about it's cool to have someone you can lean on, someone you can trust, and it's really nice to have someone you can talk to when you're down. But there's a health benefit. It's not only comfortable to have somebody, but physically healthy. Mm-hmm. To have that community aspect that we've gotten away from. We not brag, but we talk about it on the military side. But this is one of those studies that shows it's not unique to the military. People need community.
That's like I equate that to positive energy. You can't draw positive energy from other people if you're by yourself. But if you're with a group of people and you draw positive energy, it's like a team, like a basketball team or a sports team. You draw off the energy of the other person as long as you don't have teammates on that team that think the team's all about them. No, they're all about the team.
Yep.
And then that's how they learn to become a strong, effective team. Go ahead. I didn't cut you off.
No, actually, I think it was Michael.
No, I was going to say, so we all need to move to Roseto, Pennsylvania now, right?
Well, Roseto in the 60s.
Well, that's true, too. So Roseto, in case anybody was wondering, is about an hour and a half northeast of Allentown, made famous by Billy Joel in the song
Allentown, Pennsylvania. Okay, cool.
No, don't ask me to sing that again. Yeah.
Yeah, really. All right. So anyway, right. So as we talk about, and I'm one of those that believes, technology is wonderful and everything, but the more we get, the more we break up society is what we once knew.
Yeah.
Look at Little House on the Prairie days. There was dinner together, breakfast together. You worked hard. You made your money. You socialized. You went to church. You did these things. And then now we have internet and cell phones and TVs and radios and all of this other stuff that can, if you allow it, can pull you away from the things that we believe to be very important, the family life and the tribes and things like that. And so kind of figuring out a way to keep, love the technology, but still love the base of what you are and who we are and how we become better people.
Yeah.
And it's not by having your head buried in your phone 9 hours out of the day. You know what I mean?
We went to dinner.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
We went to dinner. Gosh, it's been probably 6 or 7 months now, but the kids and I were sitting having dinner at our table, and there was a table in front of us of teenage girls. Mm-hmm. Obviously old enough to drive, but a whole table, probably 10 of them. 9 of them had their face in the phone. Mm-hmm. Only one of them, I don't know what, maybe she was grounded or something, but her mom didn't give her a phone. But she was the only girl. But every one of them, you would think they're all together. That'd be the perfect time,
to
be
bond,
socializing.
Talk,
bonding teenage girls, just yucking it up. not one of them was talking or looking at each other. It was
Right.
To me, that was sad.
Yeah, and the technology is a paradox actually because it's there to help you, but also it distances you as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If it's taking you away, because, one of the things, the studies show that, when the families still had dinner together every night, everybody's going to be here for dinner. What you do afterwards, that's fine. That still kept them strong. I mean, it really was a part of the substance of life.
Yeah.
And a lot of that's gone. A lot of people, like, well, when will I see you? Oh, a couple of days, or whatever the case may be.
So there's a physically provable, healthy component to having a tribe.
Okay.
So the question I'll throw out, to you two and maybe
Sure.
anybody listening is, have you found your tribe?
Jack, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I think. Go ahead.
I was going to say if yes, or if not, here's there may be some steps on if you haven't, there's a path of how to find your tribe.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I can say truly, I have found my tribe. I have a beautiful, wonderful wife, Carrie. We have the fantastic church. Out of all my years of being in churches, we have found the best one for us, and wonderful people. Men's group. I lead a disc golf group of men on Mondays. Pickleball group. Golf, ball golf group. So yeah, I've definitely found my tribe, and people like you, I have the right friends. So I am not one of those that says, I'm still lost and all. 10 years ago, totally different story. But now, I am where I am. But I know that there are people who are like just totally opposite of that right now too, as well. So
well, did yours happen by accident, or did you? What were the things you did?
No, I had to fight through. I was diagnosed in the. I want to say it was probably late 90s, early 2000s, clinically depressed. I always knew something was, something weird was going on.
Yeah.
And so I had to fight through that. And there were times, and if anybody's ever dealt with like true depression, I don't mean just, and then when people come up, well, don't be sad, get back,
get over it.
Yeah. You want to throat punch them. And, they don't understand. And it's really, really hard to explain at times. But there were times in the fetal position, laying on a carpet in front of my window, just hard. Looking out at the clouds, just going, when will this end? When's this going to end? Didn't want to get out of bed.
Yeah.
But when you're finally able to make that move, and the last thing I wanted to do was be around people.
Right.
And yet that was the thing I needed to be the most and the more. And I've been in the entertainment world, and I did this while I was acting, and I could go be on a TV show or a commercial today, and the next day I'm just, man, who is this guy? So I have experienced that up and down. So no, it wasn't easy. No, I had to get out and fight. And like what you said, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was able to do that, and I find now that the more I'm around people, now, thank the Lord, it's been a long time. I have not had to deal with any kind of bouts. I call them bouts.
Right.
That I did back then. You'll have a couple of days like, I can kind of feel a little bit of that melancholiness coming over right now. And then knowing what to do when you feel that coming. Okay, what do I need to do? I need to go be around people. I need to exercise. I need to laugh, put on a favorite song, whatever the case may be, to get me out of that funk I'm about to get in. And so I encourage anybody else who's ever dealt with any of that, do that as well.
Yeah. There's actually 5 steps or 6 steps that someone can intentionally take. You mentioned a couple of them.
Okay.
You want to be mindful. You want to say, okay, you recognize where you are and recognize what it takes to get out of that spot or that situation. If it's something as simple as texting or calling somebody or driving over and having a cup of coffee, be mindful of the fact that, where you are and how to get out of it. Surround yourself with like-minded individuals.
Yes. That's an important one because,
it is.
Off air, we were talking about who you are around and what you put your focus on is what you will become. Like if you're hanging out with crack smokers, you're going to be a crack smoker.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, hate to be that, so that drastic, but I know some people who did that. What you are around and where you put your mind is where and what you will become.
Yep. So if you're already down and depressed, you're not going to go find someone who's down and depressed. You're not going to go find Eeyore to cheer you up.
Exactly.
Yeah. We used to say when I was flying that we used to be in these LZs and get ready to take off, and the instructor pilot would say, "Don't stare at the trees in front of you because you'll be drawn to them." And you go, "That's not true," but you'll find yourself doing that. So same analogy. If you hang around negative people, you will be drawn into negativity. if you hang around victimized people, you'll be drawn in to be a victim.
Amen. Yep.
And so there is a lot to say about surrounding yourself with like-minded people, even if it makes you feel freaking uncomfortable to walk into a room full of people that can lift you up. Even if it's uncomfortable, then damn it, go get uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, that actually leads me to the next thing. So first, we're talking about being mindful of your situation, and we talked about surround yourself with like-minded individuals, positive. If you want to be positive, you've got to be around positive people. Be open-minded. Mm-hmm. So acknowledge that you're where you are, and there's a way to get out of it. So if someone says, "Have you tried this?" or try something else, be open-minded enough to take their advice and trust them and do it.
Right. And you have to be open to change, because if you keep doing the same thing over and over, then you're never going to get out of the situation that you're in.
Now, if I can add on to what you both are saying is we're talking about an individual here. We're talking about a person. We're talking about a family. But if you also work for a company or have an organization that's negative, you have negative people, that company will not survive.
Exactly.
It's because it becomes now a culture of negativity. It's just a matter of time before you pull the cord and get the hell out of Dodge, or that company's going to sink. Or you start changing the leadership, you start changing the people, you start changing the mindset, you start changing the culture. And those that don't want to get on board, and you say, "Well, it's nice having you here. Nice to meet you. Please move on to something else. You're taking us down." And the same thing is negativity for an individual or for a group, or if you have a family that is being very positive, but you put that one person in there, it's just a matter of time.
Yep.
Where they try taking other people down.
Exactly.
That's a whole nother show. Sorry
about that.
There I go. There I go.
This is what he does for a living. So he helps companies do exactly what we're talking about now, which why I think he's one of the perfect people to be here for this.
Yeah.
Probably the last step in finding your tribe or finding your way out of that dark spot, that isolation, you got to take action. You can read a book, you can do all this other things, but until you actually get up, get off the couch, go find that person, go find that group of people, it's probably not going to change. So that would be, I saved that step for last, but that's probably one of the most important steps is actually doing something about it.
One of the hardest things for me to do when I went through a period of depression years ago was getting up out of bed and just going for a walk for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And then when I got done with the walk, I felt so much better because just 30 minutes of exercise is just like taking an antidepressant.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Yeah. I highly recommend that in every way.
Exercise, the sun, all that. That's great advice. So being a part of tribe, we talked about this. It's got some benefits. It helps us find our identity. Helps us to find our purpose. We connect with other people, and as a group, we can move forward and find that purpose. And absolutely the support we need. Mm-hmm. We're not designed to be alone. We're here on earth, to be a part of a community, part of a group. We're calling it a tribe on this show, but we're designed to be a part of something, and that support is part of that. And like I think we've all been saying, it pushes away loneliness. Mm-hmm. It's kind of hard I won't say it's hard to be alone. It's hard to be alone.
Well, it is
when you're in a group of people.
Well, it is, but
and you live longer when you're with a group of people.
Yeah,
right, exactly. But there's times when people, there's songs. I know some lines where they're like, you can be in a crowded room but still be all alone, and and that's an internal thing. So, we're coming up till the end of our time today, gentlemen.
No way,
didn't it?
Yeah, time flies when you're having fun talking about depression. Now. I mean that in a loving way, of course.
And he said it in a very loving and caring way.
That's what we're here for. So if anybody's listening to the podcast right now and is dealing with any of these particular issues, or maybe something that you just want to talk about, you can reach out to us, Bren.
So this is what the point say.
This is where they say, hey, you contact me at
Eden, EDEN-project.com.
Exactly. So Eden-project.com's got contact numbers on there, some more topics, if anything that, if anybody's ever gone through or needs to discuss more with, they can certainly reach out to us, and hopefully we can get them back on the right path.
And if it's something more immediate, or if they're not in our area, the VA's got a helpline. Is it 811?
811. And then if it's also, if you're not, mind me adding on to, if you feel you're in danger or your life, then pick up the phone, call 911, get help, and then contact the Eden Project.
Yeah.
Exactly. So,
Thanks,
humble yourself and reach out for help. Especially in a crazy world that we're living in these days, not enough people are doing that.
And people, real quick, people talk about courage, and being gutsy and being manly. Well, let me tell you something. It takes a lot of guts, and it's very manly and womanly to reach out for help.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Amen. So, Jack Perry, thank you so much for being here. Our very first guest on the After Action Report with the Eden Project. We're excited that you were here, and hopefully that you will be able to come back again someday. We had also talked about having a future guest who is a big fan, a big supporter of the veterans, the drummer for Kansas, Phil Ehart. Phil has had a heart attack, and he's in desperate need of prayer for healing. And to overcome all of whatever he's going through. I've been able to be in touch with his wonderful, sweet wife, Lori. And so we're praying for them, and I'm hoping everybody else will as well.
Band Kansas?
Correct. Yeah.
First concert I ever went to.
Really?
No kidding.
Yeah.
Good friends with Michael.
Yeah. So he was planning on being a guest here pretty soon, but just going to keep praying for him, and hopefully that he heals from this, and he'll be able to be
bless
here.
His heart. My prayers are with him.
Absolutely. So, and a big thanks to Rome at Trillith, where we're recording our episodes here, just outside of Fayetteville, Georgia. If you're ever in town, come by and check out Rome and Trillith itself, and see all the filming and all of the movies and the TV shows and Family Feud and all that other stuff that's going on out here. Anything else you'd like to add before we sign off?
Just a last little bit about the way this industry works. If you please like what we're doing, share what we're doing, what they do keeps us going. So we broke 100. Let's break 200 this time.
Yeah, well, the sky's the limit. Yeah. So if you're listening to this podcast right now and you felt anything from it, please do share on any of your social media. Do it in emails to your direct contacts, whether it's family, friends, coworkers, anything like that. And anybody that you think will benefit from this, do your part and share this. We'd greatly appreciate it. Gentlemen, thank you. Jack, thank you so much for coming in.
Most welcome.
Bryn, thanks you so much. And at this point, we look forward to having you back on our next podcast, the After Action Report from the Eden Project.